When a billionaire CEO fakes paralysis to test his fiancée's love, he never expects betrayal to lead him to the one woman who truly sees his heart. In the glittering city of Lagos, love, greed, and deception collide, and from the ashes of heartbreak, a tender, unexpected romance is born. Sit tight and watch till the end. You won't want to miss a single moment of this emotional journey. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more heart-touching love stories. The evening breeze from the Atlantic coast swept gently across the rooftop restaurant of Eco's signature hotel, carrying the faint sound of music and laughter from below. The sky over Lagos shimmered in hues of orange and gold as the sun prepared to rest behind the lagoon. It was the perfect evening, one that Richard Hartwell had carefully planned for months. Richard, dressed in a crisp white suit that contrasted beautifully with his smooth brown skin, couldn't help but smile as he watched Trisha approach. She looked breathtaking in her red evening gown, her long hair cascading down her shoulders. Every head turned to admire her as she walked gracefully to the reserved table. "Richard, you didn't tell me we were coming to heaven," she said with a playful grin as she sat down. He chuckled softly, his eyes never leaving hers. "Only heaven is worthy of an angel like you." Trisha laughed, flipping her hair. Compliments were nothing new to her, but hearing them from Lagos' most eligible bachelor and billionaire CEO of Hartwell Tech made them sound sweeter. Dinner passed with light conversation, but Richard's mind was elsewhere. His fingers kept brushing against the small velvet box hidden in his pocket. He had spent years building his empire from scratch, but tonight he wanted to build something far more meaningful, a future with the woman he loved. As the waiter brought dessert, Richard stood up. The soft tune of violins filled the air. Trisha looked around curiously, her brow raised. Then, Richard went down on one knee. "Trisha," he began, his voice steady yet filled with emotion. "You've brought color into my world, laughter into my days, and hope into my nights. I want to spend the rest of my life with you. Will you marry me?" For a moment, Trisha froze. The restaurant fell silent, eyes turning toward them. Her lips parted slightly as tears welled up in her eyes. Then she gasped and covered her mouth. "Oh my God, yes. Yes, Richard, I will." Applause erupted around them as Richard slid the diamond ring onto her finger. Trisha threw her arms around him, whispering, "You made me the happiest woman in the world." Richard smiled, but somewhere deep inside, his heart whispered something he couldn't quite understand, a quiet uncertainty. The next morning, sunlight filtered through the tall glass windows of Richard's mansion in Lekki Phase 1. The sound of birds blended with the soft hum of the city waking up. Richard sat at the breakfast table, reading through some company reports. Across from him, Trisha scrolled through her phone. "Baby," she said, not looking up, "I've been thinking. We should travel to Dubai next week to celebrate the engagement. You know, something classy for Instagram." Richard raised an eyebrow. "Next week? But I have meetings with investors." She pouted. "You can postpone it. You're the boss, aren't you?" He sighed and set down his tablet. "It's not that easy, Trisha." She rolled her eyes. "Sometimes I feel like your company comes before me." Before Richard could respond, Tund, his longtime friend and business partner, walked in. Tund was cheerful and always direct, a man Richard trusted completely. "Morning, lovebirds," Tund said, grabbing an orange from the table. "Hope I'm not interrupting." Trisha smiled politely. "Not at all, Tund. We were just talking about Dubai." "Ah, Dubai. Expensive tastes as usual." He winked, but his tone carried a hint of sarcasm that Richard didn't miss. After Trisha left for her salon appointment, Tund sat down. "Bro, can we talk?" "Sure, what's up?" Tund leaned forward. "Richard, I know you love that girl, but you need to open your eyes. Trisha isn't what you think she is." Richard frowned. "Tund, not again. You've said this before." "Because it's true," Tund replied firmly. "She's only with you for the money. You don't see how she acts when you're not around. I've seen her out with other guys, spending your cash like water." Richard's chest tightened. "You're mistaken. Trisha wouldn't do that." Tund sighed. "Then test her. Pretend something happens. See if she'll still be there when the money isn't flowing." Richard shook his head. "That's crazy, Tund. I can't play games like that. Sometimes, Tun said quietly, you have to lose everything to find out who truly loves you. Those words lingered long after Tund left. That evening, Richard couldn't sleep. He walked through the quiet halls of his mansion, his reflection staring back from the polished marble floors. He passed by Amara, his maid, as she arranged fresh flowers in the living room. "Good night, sir," she said softly, bowing her head. He smiled faintly. "Good night, Amara. You can rest now." But she noticed something in his eyes, a shadow of worry. Later that night, as he stood by the window watching the city lights flicker, Tun's words echoed again. "Pretend something happens." A plan began to form, a wild, dangerous idea that could change everything. 3 days later, Richard and Tun sat in a private room at St. Nicholas Hospital with Dr. Ao, one of the country's best physicians and a trusted family friend. "So, you want to fake being paralyzed?" the doctor asked, stunned. "Yes," Richard replied. "Just for a while. I need to know the truth about Trisha." Dr. Ao hesitated, then sighed. "This is highly unusual, Richard. But I suppose with the right setup, it can be done safely. No harm, just appearance." Tund clapped him on the back. "Then let's do it. Time to see if love is real or just another business transaction." 2 days later, the news hit Trisha like a thunderbolt. Her phone rang non-stop until she finally answered. "Miss Trisha," the voice said urgently, "Mr. Richard was rushed to the hospital. It's serious." Her heart skipped. "What happened?" "Car accident, Ma. Please come quickly." When Trisha arrived, the doctor met her at the door. "He's stable, but," he paused dramatically, "he may never walk again." "What?" she gasped, clutching her chest. "Never walk." "Yes," the doctor said. "You can take him home soon, but he'll need care, constant attention." Trisha looked through the glass at Richard, lying motionless on the hospital bed. Her hands trembled, but her eyes darted toward his wrist. The gold Rolex still glimmered. Something flickered behind her gaze. Not love, not fear, but calculation. And that was the moment Richard, pretending to be unconscious, knew his test had truly begun. The mansion felt different now. The laughter, the sparkle, and the rhythm of life seemed to have faded into silence. The wide marble halls of Richard Hartwell's Lecky home echoed only with the soft hum of the air conditioning and the creak of wheelchair wheels. Richard sat by the living room window, staring blankly outside as the morning light poured in. It had been 2 weeks since the accident. He was dressed in simple clothes, his legs covered with a blanket. To everyone, he was a man confined to a wheelchair, paralyzed from the waist down. Trisha stood nearby, scrolling through her phone, looking stunning in a tight white dress and heels that clicked sharply against the tiles. "Babe," she said casually, not looking up, "I'm going out for a bit. My girls and I are meeting at the Palms for brunch." Richard looked up slowly. "Again? You went out yesterday." She sighed, visibly irritated. "Richard, I can't just stay home all day. I need fresh air, and I can't sit here watching you stare at walls." He swallowed hard. "You could at least have breakfast with me." "Amara will serve you," she said, waving her hand dismissively. "She's doing a good job taking care of you, isn't she?" Before he could reply, she picked up her bag and strutted toward the door, her perfume lingering in the air long after she was gone. Richard turned away, his jaw tightening. The sting of disappointment cut deep, but he reminded himself, this was what he needed to see. An hour later, Amara entered the room carrying a tray. Her warm smile softened the atmosphere immediately. She wore a simple floral dress and an apron tied neatly around her waist. "Good morning, sir," she greeted gently. "I made your favorite, plantain, eggs, and tea." Richard smiled faintly. "Thank you, Amara. You didn't have to go through the trouble." "It's no trouble at all," she said, setting the tray in front of him. "You need to eat properly so you can stay strong." He watched her move around gracefully, humming softly as she arranged the table. There was something calming about her presence, genuine and unforced. When she finished, she sat across from him, waiting quietly. "Do you want me to help feed you, sir?" she asked softly. Richard hesitated, then shook his head. "No, I can manage. Just stay. Talk to me." She smiled, her eyes lighting up. "All right. What should we talk about?" "Tell me about you," he said. "You've worked here for years, but I hardly know anything about your life." Amara laughed shyly. "There's not much to tell. I grew up in Ibadan, moved to Lagos after my mother passed away. I've been working here ever since. God has been faithful." Something in her voice carried quiet strength, the kind that comes from enduring hardship with grace. Richard felt an unexpected warmth in his chest. "You sing while you work," he said softly. "Your voice, it's peaceful." Her cheeks flushed. "It helps me forget my worries." Days turned into weeks. Trisha's visits became less frequent and shorter. When she was around, she complained about everything: the smell of medication, the sound of the wheelchair, the sight of his condition. "Richard, we need to talk," she said one night, her tone sharp. "You can't expect me to keep living like this. You're not the man I fell in love with." Richard looked at her calmly. "The man you fell in love with? Or the money?" She glared. "Don't start, Richard. You think I'm shallow." He didn't respond. He didn't have to. Her designer bag, gold jewelry, and constant spending already answered the question. Trisha exhaled loudly. "You know what? I'm going out." She grabbed her car keys and stormed out, slamming the door. From his wheelchair, Richard watched her leave and closed his eyes. The truth was painful, but necessary. Behind him, Amara stepped into the room quietly. "Sir, are you okay?" He opened his eyes slowly and smiled weakly. "I'll be fine. Thank you, Amara." She nodded and placed a light hand on his shoulder. "You don't have to smile if it hurts. Sometimes it's okay to be sad." Her words hit deeper than she realized. As days passed, Amara became his world. She was the one who read to him in the evenings, rolled him out to the garden in the mornings, and made him laugh when silence grew heavy. One afternoon, as she wheeled him outside, the golden sunlight bathed the garden in warmth. Birds fluttered over the hibiscus bushes, and a gentle breeze brushed his face. "Amara," he said softly, "do you ever wish for more?" She looked at him curiously. "More? More than this? Cleaning, cooking, serving others?" She smiled faintly. "Sometimes. But I also believe that every season in life has a purpose. Maybe this is where I'm meant to be for now." Her humility touched him. "You deserve so much more," he said quietly. "You're kind, selfless, patient. Those things are rare." She laughed softly. "You sound like you're complimenting a saint, sir." "I'm complimenting a woman," he said, eyes meeting hers. "A remarkable one." Her breath caught for a second. The way he said it, so sincere, so full of emotion, made her heart flutter. She quickly looked away, her cheeks warming. They sat in silence for a while, the kind that spoke louder than words. But not everyone in the mansion was blind to what was happening. One night, Tun stopped by to check on Richard. As they spoke in the study, he lowered his voice. "Bro, I've seen enough," Tun said. "Trisha doesn't even pretend to care anymore. Today she was at the club with another man, holding hands." Richard clenched his jaw, the pain settling deep. "So it's true?" "Yes. And to make things worse, she's been asking your lawyer about property documents." Richard leaned back in his chair, his expression unreadable. "Let her continue. I want her to show the world exactly who she is." Tund hesitated, then smiled faintly. "You've also been smiling more lately. Don't tell me the maid is the reason." Richard chuckled softly. "Amara reminds me of what real kindness feels like. She's different." Tund grinned. "Different enough to heal a broken heart?" Richard looked out the window at the moonlit garden. "Maybe." That weekend, everything changed. Richard woke up to the sound of laughter downstairs, a man's voice. Curious, he wheeled himself quietly toward the living room. There, he froze. Trisha sat on the couch with another man, dressed in a silk robe, champagne glasses on the table. "You don't have to whisper," the man joked. "He can't walk, remember?" Trisha laughed coldly. "True. Poor Richard. A billionaire turned burden." The words cut through him like a blade. He backed away silently, his heart pounding. Amara found him minutes later in the hallway, trembling. "Sir," she whispered, alarmed. "What's wrong?" He forced a smile. "Nothing, Amara. Nothing at all." But deep down, something inside him broke, and at the same time, something else awakened. The next time Trisha called him a cripple, she wouldn't be laughing. Because the man she thought was weak was about to stand tall again. The morning after that dreadful night, Richard sat quietly in his study, the early sunlight spilling through the blinds. His wheelchair faced the window, but his thoughts were far away, trapped between pain and clarity. He could still hear Trisha's mocking laughter echoing in his mind. Poor Richard! A billionaire turned burden. The words stung like acid. He had loved her, defended her, believed in her, and now he could finally see the truth. But what hurt most wasn't her betrayal. It was that Amara, the woman society would call just a maid, had shown him the kind of love and loyalty money could never buy. He turned to see Amara quietly cleaning the bookshelf. She hummed a soft tune, her movements graceful and careful as always. When she noticed his gaze, she paused and smiled. "Good morning, sir," she said gently. "Good morning, Amara," Richard replied, his tone softer than usual. "You didn't sleep well again," she observed. "Should I make you some tea?" He nodded. "Yes, please. And thank you for everything." She smiled faintly. "It's my job, sir." He shook his head. "No, it's more than that. You've been a light in this house when everything else went dark." Amara blinked, unsure how to respond. She looked down shyly and murmured, "You deserve light, sir. You've been through enough." That afternoon, Tun stopped by again, his expression serious. "Richard, things are getting out of hand," he said, setting his phone on the desk. "Look at this." Richard picked up the phone. On the screen was a photo, Trisha and the same man from last night, wrapped around each other at a high-end restaurant. "She didn't even try to hide it," Tun said angrily. "And she's been talking to your lawyer again. She's planning to transfer property papers behind your back." Richard's lips tightened. "Then it's time, Tun. No more pretending." Tun's eyes widened. "You mean?" "Yes," Richard said calmly. "It's time she meets the man she thought was broken." That evening, the mansion buzzed with false normalcy. Trisha came home dressed in a tight gold dress, carrying shopping bags from luxury stores. "Hey, babe," she called out lazily. "You won't believe the sale I caught today." She froze when she saw Richard sitting upright in the living room, his expression unreadable. "Trisha," he said slowly, "we need to talk." She frowned, glancing at her phone. "Can it wait? I'm tired." "No," he said sharply. "It can't." Something in his tone made her hesitate. She tossed her bag on the couch and crossed her arms. "What is it now?" Richard's eyes were steady. "Do you love me?" She scoffed. "What kind of question is that?" "Answer me," he pressed. "Of course I love you," she snapped. "But love doesn't pay bills, Richard. You've changed since the accident. You sit here all day doing nothing. I'm the one trying to keep us looking good in public." He leaned forward slightly. "You mean you want to keep up appearances? Not us." She rolled her eyes. "You're impossible. You know what? I'm done with this conversation." She turned to leave, but Richard's voice stopped her. "Trisha," he said coldly, "how much longer were you planning to fake it?" She turned back, startled. "What are you talking about?" He looked her dead in the eye. "The man you bring into my house. The one you call when you think I'm asleep. The documents you tried to steal from my office drawer. How much longer?" Her face paled. I don't know what you're talking about." "Don't lie to me," Richard said quietly. "I trusted you when everyone warned me. I defended you. But now I see you for who you really are." Trisha's lips trembled. "Who told you all this?" "That maid. She's lying." "Don't blame Amara," Richard said. "She has more integrity in her heart than you ever will." At that, her anger flared. "Oh, so now it's about her? The maid. I see. You're falling for her, aren't you? That's what this is about." Richard didn't reply. He simply stared, long and hard, until she grew uncomfortable. "Trisha," he said finally, "I want you to sit down." She frowned. "Why?" "Just sit." She hesitated, then obeyed, crossing her legs impatiently. "This better be quick." Richard took a deep breath. "You think I'm weak? Helpless? Paralyzed?" She smirked. "Well, aren't you?" And then, slowly, deliberately, Richard stood up. Trisha's eyes went wide, her body freezing. What? He took a step toward her, his movements firm, steady, powerful. "You think I can't walk?" She staggered back, gasping. "Richard, how?" He didn't stop moving. "You wanted to know how far your greed could go, Trisha. Well, congratulations, you just found out." Tears welled in her eyes, though they weren't from remorse, they were from fear. You tricked me?" "No," Richard said coldly. "You tricked yourself." At that moment, the door opened. Tund walked in with two uniformed police officers. Trisha's mouth dropped open. What is this?" Richard handed the officers a folder. "Evidence of fraud, attempted theft, and property forgery. I believe you'll find her signature on the documents." Trisha's voice broke. "Richard, please. I can explain." "There's nothing left to explain," he said quietly. "You could have loved me for who I was, but you chose money over heart." As the officers led her away, she screamed, "You'll regret this, Richard. You'll regret everything." But Richard didn't move. He simply turned away, his chest heavy but free. The house was silent again. Only the ticking of the wall clock echoed through the vast living room. Amara entered slowly, her face full of concern. "Sir, is everything all right?" Richard looked at her, his expression softening. "It is now." She glanced at him, then at the empty doorway where Trisha had been taken. "I'm sorry it had to end that way." He stepped closer. "Don't be. Sometimes endings are blessings in disguise." For a long moment, they just stood there, two hearts that had found each other in the wreckage of deceit. "Amara," he said gently, "you were the only one who saw me, not as a billionaire, not as a burden, but as a man. You cared when you had nothing to gain." Tears glimmered in her eyes. "You're a good man, sir. Anyone would be lucky to love you." He smiled softly. "Then I'm lucky, because I already love someone." Her breath caught. "Sir." "Please," he said quietly, taking her hand. "No more, sir. Just Richard." She looked up at him, her heart racing. "Richard." He leaned closer, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "You showed me what real love means. And I don't ever want to lose that again." Amara's tears slipped down her cheeks, but her smile shone through them. "I never thought someone like you could love someone like me," she whispered. He cupped her cheek tenderly. "Love doesn't care about status, Amara. It only cares about truth." And then, under the quiet hum of the Lagos night, Richard pulled her close, not out of pity, not out of gratitude, but out of the pure, honest love that had grown between them. The man who once pretended to be broken had finally found the woman who made him whole. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more emotional and romantic stories like this. Share your thoughts in the comments. What would you have done if you were Richard or Amara? Stay tuned for more love, heartbreak, and redemption stories from the heart of Lagos.